Linda's hands trembled as she opened the pizza box, only to find a note instead of a pizza. The hastily written message read, "He is not who you think he is." Her mind whirled with confusion and fear. Who had sent this cryptic warning? And why use a pizza delivery to convey it? With her wedding just 2 days away, Linda felt a cold shiver. As the implications of the note began to settle in, she stood paralyzed at the doorway, grappling with the unsettling truth that everything she believed was now in doubt. Linda Marvel had spent the last 6 months meticulously planning every detail of her dream wedding. Her fiancé, Tom, appeared to be the ideal partner, charismatic, reliable, and affectionate. They had been together for 5 years, creating a life full of joy and shared aspirations. Yet, as Linda held a poignant note, she was overtaken by doubt. Memories of their time together swirled in her mind, casting shadows over her once perfect vision. The thought that their seemingly flawless relationship might be built on a foundation of deception left her heart heavy with uncertainty. Linda's life had been comfortably routine until one fateful evening when a mysterious message disrupted her peace. "Check your door camera." The sudden urgency of the note sent her into a whirl of anxiety and doubt. Reflecting on past events, Linda revisited seemingly insignificant details, Tom's frequent absences, and his vague responses about his past and family. What she had previously dismissed as minor quirks now seemed suspicious. Faced with the unsettling possibility of deception, Linda realized she needed to uncover the truth before it was too late. Linda sat alone in her living room, gripping a note tightly as she looked around at the wedding decorations that filled the space. The house was a flurry of color and excitement, but the sight of her dream dress hanging untouched in the closet only deepened her sense of dread. The room, once a symbol of joy, now felt like a prison. Each festive detail seemed to taunt her as she thought about her eager family and friends. With trembling hands, she picked up her laptop, bracing herself for the possibility of an unsettling truth captured by the front door caption. The thought of confronting Tom and the potential fallout made her heart race with fear and uncertainty. As soon as she viewed the footage, Linda knew she couldn't delay. She needed to confront Tom that very night, despite the enormous risk. Canceling the wedding would be heart-wrenching, but living a deception was far worse. With her resolve firm, she rehearsed her words. As Tom's car pulled into the driveway, her pulse quickened. Standing by the door with arms crossed, she braced herself for the confrontation, struggling to believe what he had done. When Tom entered, his initial smile faded at the sight of her somber expression. "Linda, what's wrong?" he asked, his face full of concern. Taking a deep breath, Linda prepared herself for the difficult conversation ahead. Linda's voice trembled with emotion. "I'm calling off the wedding." It's over. Tom's face contorted with a mix of confusion and pain. "What are you talking about? What's going on?" he asked urgently. Linda brandished a note, her eyes filling with tears. Tom glanced at the note, his confusion quickly giving way to alarm. "What have I done?" he questioned, his voice rising in distress. Linda's anger flared. "There's no use in denying it anymore. I know the truth about you," she began, her voice faltering as she struggled to articulate the gravity of her revelation. Linda steadied her breath, her gaze fixed intently on Tom. "I'm aware of your double life," she declared with resolve. "I found this note and reviewed the footage." Tom's complexion drained of color, and he tried to speak, but no sound emerged. Linda felt a painful blend of vindication and sadness as she absorbed the gravity of the situation. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken words, and the guilt in Tom's eyes only deepened Linda's sense of betrayal. Linda Marvel, a true romantic at heart, spent her childhood in Detroit dreaming of her perfect match. Surrounded by the warmth of her loving parents, she learned early on the value of finding the right person to share her life with. Her upbringing instilled in her a deep desire to one day be someone's wife. From a young age, Linda imagined the future and wondered who her soulmate would be, cherishing the hope of a fairy tale romance that would eventually become her reality. Linda's high school relationships were largely disappointing. She encountered a mix of immaturity and rudeness, with few of her boyfriends leaving a lasting impression. By her senior year, Linda resolved to take a break from dating altogether. "I'm not going to date again until I meet someone truly worthwhile," she declared to her closest friends. True to her word, she avoided dating throughout her first 2 years of college, only re-entering the dating scene at the age of 20. Linda could never erase the memory of that college house party when she first noticed Tom Marshall. Standing out among the crowd, Tom's imposing height and striking features, dark hair, deep-set eyes, and an irresistible smile captivated her instantly. Summoning all her courage, Linda decided to take a leap she had never taken before. With a determined heart, she made her way across the room to introduce herself to him. That night they spoke for hours on end about their hopes, dreams, and biggest fears. Linda liked that Tom was very easy to speak to. But their connection didn't end there. Tom asked for Linda's number by the end of the night, and asked her out on a date just a few days later. Linda was over the moon and decided that Tom was the perfect man to date. He was kind, charming, and intelligent. The pair fell from each other in no time, and Tom made their relationship official after just 3 dates. Although it seemed like they were moving fast, it just felt right at the time. Linda was certain that Tom was the perfect man for her. They spent every weekend together and saw each other throughout the week. She never could have guessed that he would break her heart in the worst way possible. 6 months after the pair began dating, Linda finally introduced Tom to her parents, and they loved him right away. Linda's father thought he was perfect for his daughter, and her mother thought he was a gentleman. Linda was grateful for their opinions, but when she asked Tom when she would meet his parents, he said something rather strange. "Probably not anytime soon," he said, and shrugged his shoulders, staring at the TV they had been staring at all night. "What? Why not?" Linda asked, beyond confused. Did he not think she was worth meeting his parents? Doubt filled her heart as she stared at him with worried eyes. "They moved to Europe a few years ago. Did I not mention this before?" he asked casually, but she did not recall receiving this information. "No, you never told me this," she said, feeling a strange feeling in the pit of her stomach. Something just seemed a little weird. "They moved a year after I graduated from high school. I guess I just didn't think to mention that," he said, not noticing the frown on her face. Although Linda thought this was strange, she decided to shake it off. He spoke so casually that she never could have guessed that he was lying. Within a few hours, Linda forgot about their conversation, and the young couple's lives went back to normal. They stayed together through thick and thin. Tom was there the day Linda graduated and vice versa. They did almost everything together. Linda was excited about their future together. She was so used to spending time apart from Tom whenever his studies picked up. And now, that chapter was finally over. But to Linda's surprise, Tom still spent a lot of time away from her. Whenever she would ask him about it, he would have some excuse. "I'm working late," or "I'm going to the lake with the guys for the weekend," he would say. But she believed all of his excuses. But one day, after they had been together for 3 whole years, Linda made a suggestion that she hoped Tom would agree to. "I just think now is the perfect time to move in together. We spend most of our nights together anyway. At least, whoever you have the time for me," she teased. Tom seemed a little unsure. He contemplated her suggestion for a while. Linda hoped he would say yes. They both had excellent jobs and made enough money to afford a decent place. Linda expected Tom to decline this suggestion, but to her surprise, he agreed. "You're right. We've been together for 3 years. It's the logical next step in our relationship," he said. She couldn't contain her happiness. Linda let out a sound of joy as she threw her arms around his shoulders, hugging him close. She couldn't wait. They began looking for a place immediately, and they found the perfect little place just a few weeks later. Before they knew it, they had bought themselves a beautiful little place in the suburbs, and although it was small, they thought it was small. It had a small garden in the back and a nice little front porch. But what caught Linda's attention was the small security camera that overlooked the front porch. They moved in immediately and began living their life in the suburbs. Linda had always wondered what this time of her life would be like. The pair were happy for an entire year as they stayed in their little home and made it their own. They were in a great spot. Linda had started a small vegetable garden, and Tom had turned one of the rooms into a small home office. Everything was going well, so no one was surprised when Tom proposed to Linda's entire family on Saturday night. As soon as he got down on one knee and showed Linda the ring, she couldn't help but shout a loud yes that echoed through the entire room. Everyone cheered as he put the ring on her finger and planted a big kiss on her lips. It was one of the happiest days of her life. Linda couldn't wait to be his wife. She knew he was the perfect man for her, if only she knew what the future had in store for her. For the next few weeks, Linda couldn't stop looking at different types of flowers and wedding dresses. She was excited for the wedding. "I think tulips are the perfect wedding flowers. What do you think?" she asked Tom, pointing her phone in his direction. He glanced down at the screen and nodded, but then she asked a question that he was not expecting to hear. "Have you told your parents?" "I can't wait to finally meet them at the wedding," she said. She didn't notice the way his eyes widened when she asked that question. He scratched the back of his neck, suddenly nervous as he passed her a fake smile. "I haven't told them yet. I don't think they'll make it to the wedding," he said. This confused Linda. Why would his parents not be able to attend their own son's wedding? She asked him directly. "They just aren't like that. They wouldn't waste their time and money on a wedding." "We don't need them anyway," he said. But Linda didn't understand it. She couldn't deny that his reaction to her question was rather strange. She wanted to ask more questions, but before she could, he rose from his seat on the couch and walked toward the kitchen, cutting their conversation short. Linda knew something strange was at play, but she decided not to pay too much attention to it. She didn't want to ruin her good mood. All that mattered was their wedding. She assumed he just had a weird relationship with his parents and didn't want them at the wedding. She kept scrolling through the images on her phone, trying to decide on the perfect colors for her wedding. But something alarming would happen just a few months later. The week of their wedding arrived in no time, and Linda couldn't be more excited. In the last few weeks, Tom had spent a lot of time away from home. He said he was just enjoying his independence before the wedding. She thought he was going out with friends and partying. If only she knew the truth. That week, Linda had butterflies in her stomach all day, every day. She couldn't believe that she was getting married in a few days. That week felt like it was moving slowly. Linda was excited, and it felt like Saturday was years away. With each passing day, she grew more excited and slightly nervous. She just hoped that everything would work out as planned. Before she knew it, Thursday rolled around. That was the day that her entire life changed forever. That morning started like any other. Linda had breakfast before making a few calls, ensuring that everything was coming along for the wedding. So far, it seemed like everything was going to be just fine. But her entire life changed that afternoon when she heard a knock on the front door. Linda was confused. She wasn't expecting anyone. As she walked to the door, she had no idea what was about to happen. As soon as Linda pulled the front door open, she was surprised to see a pizza delivery man standing in front of her. He held up a pizza box with a strange look on his face. "I think you have the wrong house. I didn't order a pizza," she said. But he simply pushed the box into her hands. "I think you might want to see what's inside," he said before walking off. Linda was confused as she watched the young man walk away. She stared at the pizza box, baffled as to why he'd brought it. She walked back inside, kicking the front door shut behind her. Linda headed straight for the kitchen, unaware of what was about to happen. She wondered if Tom had accidentally ordered a pizza to their house instead of the office, but she was not prepared for what was inside of the box. She placed the box on the counter and opened it slowly, but she was confused when she found no pizza inside. "What's going on?" she muttered to herself. But that was when she saw the note inside. As soon as she did, her heart sank. "He is not who you think he is. Check your door camera," it read. Her heart was racing in her chest. Linda was having trouble trying to figure out what was going on. Had the pizza delivery guy seen something that she had never seen? Linda knew he was talking about Tom. Did he know Tom? Or did he see something outside of their home? Linda's curiosity got the best of her. She had to check the footage of the front door camera. Her heart was racing. Was he hiding something from her? Linda sat alone in her living room, the note clutched in her hand. The wedding was just 2 days away, and the house was filled with decorations and wedding paraphernalia. Her dream dress hung in the closet, untouched. The room felt oppressive, each happy reminder of her impending wedding now a cruel mockery. She thought of her family and friends, all excited for the big day. When she grabbed the laptop from the coffee table, her heart sank. She was afraid of what the front door camera would reveal. How could she face the people she loved if the worst were true? Linda's mind raced as she considered her options. She had to confront Tom, but the thought filled her with dread. Linda's mind was racing. What was the pizza delivery guy talking about? She held her breath as she opened the laptop and clicked on the app that held the camera's footage. She wondered what she would find, and where she would find it, but it didn't take long. As soon as she checked the footage from the night before, she knew what the guy wanted her to see. She covered her mouth with the palm of her hand and gasped when she saw what had happened the night before. She watched with tears in her eyes as Tom stood on the front porch with an unknown woman in front of him. He was holding her close. "When can I come into your new house and have a look, honey?" the woman asked. Linda's stomach churned. "Thought after all these years together, you'd have had me over already?" She felt like she was going to be sick as he kissed the unknown woman. "Not tonight. Maybe next time. I will see you tomorrow, honey," he said. That was the night she learned that her boyfriend had been in a relationship for the last few years. She couldn't believe it. Tears streamed down her face. How could he do something like this? Did the other woman know that she existed? She felt like she was going to be sick as she prayed that it was all a bad dream. But her nightmare was far from over. As soon as she watched the footage, she knew she couldn't wait. She had to confront Tom that very night. The risk was immense. Calling off the wedding would be devastating, but living a lie would be far worse. She rehearsed what she would say, her resolve hardening. As she heard Tom's car pull into the driveway, her heart raced. She stood by the door, arms crossed, ready for the confrontation. She couldn't believe what he had done to her. When Tom walked in, his face lit up with a smile that quickly faded as he saw her expression. "Linda, what's wrong?" he asked, concern etched on his face. Linda took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Linda's voice shook as she spoke. "I'm canceling the wedding." "It's over." Tom's face twisted in confusion and hurt. "What do you mean? What happened?" he demanded. Linda held up the note, her eyes brimming with tears. "I know who you really are. What you've been doing all these years." Tom looked at the note, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. "What have I been doing?" he stammered, his voice rising in panic. Linda felt a surge of anger. "There's no point denying it now. I know that you are." She paused, the words sticking in her throat. Linda took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto Tom's. "I know that you've been living a double life," she said, her voice firm. "I got this note, and I checked the footage. Tom's face went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Linda felt a mix of vindication and sorrow. Her trust was shattered. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Linda could see the guilt in Tom's eyes, confirming her worst fears. Tom finally found his voice, but it was weak and unsteady. "Linda, you have to believe me. I can explain," he pleaded. "Explain what, Tom?" "That our entire relationship has been a lie," Linda shot back, her anger flaring. Tom ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting around the room, as if searching for an escape. "It's not like that," he insisted. "I love you, I really do. But there are things you don't know about me, things I've kept hidden for your own good." Linda's heart ached at his words. "What kind of love is built on lies?" "I didn't know how to tell you. I have been with this girl since high school. She lives on the other side of town, and I never gathered the courage to leave her. My parents love her," he said. But that made Linda pause. "Your parents? The ones who you said moved to Europe? Why does it matter what they think?" she questioned. She saw the guilt in his eyes when she asked that question, but when he told the truth, she couldn't believe what he said. Tom sighed to himself, regretting all of the decisions he'd made in the last 5 years. He loved Linda, but he hurt her in the worst way possible, and he lied a lot. "They didn't move to Europe. They lived 20 minutes away. I knew they would flip if they knew about you," he said. Linda couldn't believe it. He had been cheating on her since they had first gotten together. All along, he had another girlfriend. That night, she finally decided to end it all. "I want you to pack your things and leave this house. I never want to see you again," she said, and meant every word. Tom tried to stop her, but it wouldn't work. He had broken her trust, and she would never forgive him. "Get out," she said. Tom left after that, and as soon as the door shut behind him, she began crying into her hands. How could this happen? The following day, Linda shared the news with everyone close to her. She spent that entire day alone in bed, crying. Her closest friends and family came over to her house for support, and she was grateful to have them around. She knew that it would take some time to heal, but she did not regret her decision. She knew that she would eventually find her Prince Charming.